All right, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Living the Dream podcast. Today on the show, we are going through Proverbs chapter 3, verse 23. So let's jump into it. Then you will walk on your way securely, and your foot will not stumble. And just for some context here, it's talking to like my son. It says, do not lose sight of these, keep sound wisdom and discretion. So wisdom is talking to us and like, hey, if you keep sound wisdom, you keep discretion, these are the benefits you're going to get. And in verse 23, the benefit is that you will walk on your way securely and your foot will not stumble. And so the interpretation for this is really simple. Wisdom comes with security. When you have that wisdom, you're not going to stumble. You're going to walk on your way securely. But what does that mean for us? What does that mean for our life? When I think about entrepreneurship, I think about the fact that there are common pitfalls in life and entrepreneurship that are easier to avoid when you know what they are. And that's where that wisdom comes in. And typically this comes from one of two places. You're either going to have a mentor, and that mentor is going to coach you up, and you're going to be a very coachable person. And they're going to be like, hey, back when I was scaling my business to $100,000 a month, I ran into this hiring issue. To avoid this hiring issue, ask these questions in the interview process. That's one way you can get wisdom. And the other way is how the mentor got his wisdom, right? He had experience and he hired two or three bad people. And he was like, well, what was the common issue between these two or three people? They didn't have this. So how can I ask a question to get at this? And so that's kind of the two ways that I can see people getting wisdom. And typically that happens in, mastermind groups. That's where you can find mentors. That's where you can find people who are learning from experience and then sharing those experiences. Also, reading is a great way, reading biographies. It's funny because those are actually the two ways I want to show up in my life. So I'll get to that a little bit later. But where has this shown up in my life? I've learned a couple of things from experience. Actually, I learned to take massive action because that's key to success. Back when I was reading a lot of success literature, that was the only thing that kept popping up. It's like, whatever you do, just keep taking action. Whatever you do, just keep taking action. And don't question the fact that you're taking action. Don't really stop to think about it. Take the action, have a period of reflection to optimize the action, but keep taking the action because you'll learn more from taking the action than you will from being stuck in analysis paralysis, right? And then I also learned that asking how can I instead of saying I can't is key. So a lot of people will have a big dream or goal and they'll be like, but I can't do that. Well, take a second and ask yourself, how can I do that? Because chances are, if you can think of it, it's possible because it's been done in some shape, way, or form, and you are taking pieces of your knowledge and imagining this end goal, which is why it's possible. You may not know how all the pieces fit together, but all the pieces are there, or else you wouldn't be able to see it. So instead of saying you can't, ask yourself, how can you? That's another thing I learned just reading a lot of success books. I really think that came from one book, and it's in a lot of them. So nothing crazy, but maybe Rich Dad Poor Dad, can't quite remember. I also learned just about growth mindset. That's also in basically every book. And now I don't get stopped at all those common pitfalls, right? So anytime I am in life and I'm upset with my life, I don't kind of sit there and stew about the fact that I'm upset. I'm like, what massive action can I take to get me towards my goals? I learned that, I'm not going to say I can't. So instead of saying I can't, I always ask myself, well, how would that work? And if I don't know how it would work, I go seek out that information. I go watch a YouTube video. I think it through on my head. And now I kind of have schemas from information that I've taken in about, this is how you kind of make these things work in the business world. You need to have a customer and you need to have that product market fit. So who's a customer that would want this service? Is this something a customer would want? How can I make it something a customer would want? And that's from reading Alex Hormozi's recent book. $100 million offers, making offers so good that people would feel stupid saying no. And so all of this stuff I've learned from reading books and from trying to apply the stuff in that books and then getting it in a more nuanced way, in a way that would fit more for me. And I would say that nuance comes from the character traits because they teach you the tactics, but they don't teach you the character traits that you need. You need to be able to think selflessly to think about an offer that would work for people. You need to be humble enough to ask questions to the people around you and utilize your resources to create a better offer. Take that criticism, create a better offer. When you're taking massive action, you have to keep doing it despite failure and despite judgment, right? And so those are just some of the things that how it's shown up in my life. And the other way it's shown up in my life is I realize that I'm not at my dreams and goals yet. And there's still so much to learn, especially about why I still am where I am when it comes to my financial situation and the level of impact I have on society, I plan on that being both of those things being much better in my future. And so clearly, I still have something to learn and I still have character traits to build if I want to get there. And so those are the places it's shown up in my life. Some of the security is lacking because I still lack wisdom when it comes to the entrepreneurial game. And I will continue to learn that, continue to grow in that. Now, where do I want this to show up in my life? I want to, just like I said, continue to learn and grow, and then do that by attending mastermind groups and more consistent reading. Honestly, I used to read pretty consistently, and now I'm just like, I listen to audiobooks whenever I can. And I've kind of talked about this a little bit before. It's kind of a pride thing of I'm more in an action phase than a learning phase. But then I'll find myself doing stuff like playing video games or wasting time. It's like, well, that time could be spent reading and learning something. And so I could at least spend 15 minutes of that time, 20 minutes of that time. I'm not saying I need to be a machine, because I also learned that being a machine isn't the ideal way to live life, right? But taking some time and intentionally reading, intentionally attending mastermind groups. Like I have a goal of joining a real estate mastermind group because I really want to break into the apartment syndication world, right? That's a goal I have, and that's a goal I need to achieve to kind of be on track to seek wisdom and get wisdom from other people around me who are doing the stuff that I want to be doing. Now, how can you guys apply this to your life? I would say ask questions you don't know the answer to, and then do not stop there, but move towards the answer, whether that be asking that question to somebody who you think will know it, just thinking about that question in depth and trying to answer it yourself, or going out and taking massive action, getting feedback that will then answer that question. But just ask questions you don't know the answer to, because that means there's a problem. And if there's a problem and you go solve it, your life will get a little bit easier, and hopefully you'll make the lives of the people around you a little bit easier. So there we go. That is all we got for you today on the show. Thank you guys so much for listening. We will see you on the next one. And on that note, we're out.